So this is video 2, and we're going to have a look at, with our creature, we've got the basic rudimentary forms all done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the hands and the feet, and then we're going to do a big pass of dynameshing, and once we've done that we can go in and start doing the secondary forms. So let's dive right in. So with the hands, what I'm going to do is switch back to Z-spheres for a moment. I'm going to not use symmetry now, and I'm just going to draw out a new Z-sphere here. So start at the front like so, and then drag it down. I'm just making one finger here. So back to Q, I'm just going to put 2 knuckles in. I'll have 1, 2, like that, and that's all I need. So this would be the knuckle. This would, on the hand knuckle, this would be the first digit, second digit, basically the first part of the finger, second part of the finger, third part of the finger there. And that's how we're going to sculpt it. So I'll just make that, so that would be adaptive skin. It will be make adaptive skin, and we've got a single finger. We're going to do what I said before, we'll just Z-remesh it first of all. Now I have put symmetry back on because I'm going to use it to make the single finger. So with move, I'm going to flatten out the nail like so, so it's flat on the top. You can see there straight away that's much more nail shaped. I'm going to pull it down at the back, and then this, so that's the first knuckle there on the finger, second one is there, and then I'm going to fatten it down here a little bit. So fatten it down here and fatten it down under the finger. So even if we push them back, that's a good way to start. It's a lot wider at the back here where it goes into the hand. Up here, and up here. So that's more than enough to get going. So what we'll do is we'll use Dam Standard, which is the first time we've used it, and it's the way we score into the surface. Control and D gives me more resolution. So first crease, second crease, and then on the top I'm going to use the same Dam Standard, but I'm holding Alt, and it's going to give me this, which is lines raised up on the surface, and then back to the opposite way, and it'll give us the ability to score in. Control D again, I've gone even higher, so I'm going to go nice high res for a nail like so. And there's a finger done quite quickly. So a few more creases on the knuckle there. Let's have a look. It looks very humanoid, which is fine. You know, we were mashing up creatures with humans. So a good tip here is pull the nail back and pull it forward like that, and you get the right. Oh, it's not quite done it. Hang on. So I'm going to pull it up and back, and then forward like so. And then I'll smooth it down at the front just under here, and then just keep pulling it like so, smoothing it at the front, and then make sure it's got this raise, that a nail is always raised like this. So if you need to, you can do this, which is hold down your control, go to mask lasso, and just literally use the lasso to mask off the nail. Control and I will invert that, and now what you can do is just pull that nail out. If it wasn't going, you know, the way that we wanted it, then that's how you can do that, and then pull it up from underneath to get that raised bit like so, and just make sure it does look like a nail. It doesn't look like it's stuck on. Make sure it's, you know, it's down deep enough, and then Control and I, and we can bring everything up around it. So like so, and there we go. There's the nail all sorted. We will actually just pull it all up now like that, a little bit like that. There we go. Now what we'll do is we'll dynamesh that. So we'll go quite low resolution, so less than about 100, and hit dynamesh. Say yes, and what it's done, it's given us a low res version of it. In fact, too low if I'm honest. Let's have a look, go a bit higher, and then hit dynamesh again. There you go. Now that's gone way too high, but that's fine because it's cleared out the problems that we were having. So it's actually gone and made it a little bit more pixelated, which I didn't want that to happen, but with a quick smooth that's sorted. I'll just put those scoring lines back in. You can see that looks nice and clean now. So, and the rest of them look clean. Now if that's too high res, what you can do is you can quickly do what's called a decimation master or decimation. So just go over to your Z plugin and just look for halfway down or towards the bottom, you'll find decimation master. Just do a pre-processed current and it'll quickly calculate that. And then change your decimation down to about 10 to 20% and hit decimate current. And it's quite relatively low res now. We could go a bit lower res if needed, but that's enough for what we're about to do. So we're going to go back to our creature and we're going to start adding it in. So make sure you've got the right one. So it's the one that we've sculpted like so. And then what we're going to do is append in those fingers. So we want to append and we want to add the finger that we've sculpted. Now it's massive, so that's fine. So we'll scale that down. So make sure symmetry is off now because we don't need it. It doesn't matter whether you do left or right. It really, you know, we can change that at the drop of a hat. So we can bring that down and down a bit more, rotate it around, and we'll pop that where that finger is. There, roughly. So something like that. Now what we want to do now is get rid of the little finger that we sculpted before, so we can knife that away, remember. So knife curve, so chop that away. And then with this first finger, we're now going to make this into a hand. So let's use, make it a bit wider this way. Obviously it's going to have a thumb of sorts. You'll see what I'm doing in a moment. Like so. It's going to have a thumb here, smaller brush. Thumb's going to go this weird thumb shape here, and then we're probably going to have just two fingers coming down here. So the one that we've got, and then what I might do is have one bigger one. So Alt and click on the finger. So rotate it around, and then we'll duplicate it from up here. And then like so, there's the two fingers, and maybe roll that one around a bit so we've got a little bit of a kink from the side. That looks good. So just move that interface back down. For some reason it's jumped up. Yep, so that's good. So two fingers there. In fact, no, I've changed my mind actually. I'm gonna do three fingers. So I want one smaller finger, so I want that coming here, and we'll adjust the hand to accommodate that. And that gives me a nicer curl round like so. I hope you agree with me. And then we'll make a thumb out of that as well. Now we need one less of the bones in it for a thumb. So you'll see what I mean here. So bring it round. You don't need this last stretch here for a thumb. So that is basically embedded in the hand. Like so. If you want to adjust the pivot point or the gizmo, just hold Alt on it and then basically let go, and then you can adjust it and move it how you want to make it work for you. So I'm going to bring that right underneath, like so, and that's a good start for a thumb for us, like that. Not quite the right angle, and that happens a lot, but good enough. And there we go. We've got all of the digits that we need. So we'll move this hand now. So go back to move, and then move this around to accommodate it. This is obviously where the wrist ends. So we've got a really long hand here, and then the thumb's going to need all of this volume to come out here like this. And then what we'll do is we'll go back to clay build up, and we'll add some of the tendon detail that we want here. So this wrist needs to be a bit better shaped. A bit more on there. And there we go. So we've got a nice looking hand that when we start sculpting should give us some, you know, some really nice shapes. So that wrist is way too big. So bring that right down with a combination of smooth and move. We can bring that down And then maybe I will add the creases that we need on a hand. So big fatty pad on your palm of your hand here. That's quite normal. It's the wrist. And then some volume here where the segs are. So these are the bit that are behind your knuckles. And then we need damn standard and just put some of your lines in. Like so. Even if it's rough, it'll give us everything we want. So some indication of some of the work going on underneath the arm here. And a bit around the elbow. And that's enough. So to get them in, now we're going to dynamesh them in. So what we'll do is we'll take everything we've done. So we'll start at the top and we'll go merge, and we'll go merge down like so, and just merge, keep merging down. So all of them now are together as one part, like so. Now they might be one part, but they're not, you know, they're not done accurately. They're you know, these are all high res, and you can still, if you use move topological at this stage, you can still move them independently. So we don't want that. What we want is a nice even dynamesh. So we'll go about 200-ish and we'll hit dynamesh and see what happens. I'm not saying this is right, but let's just see what it does. So that's not done a bad job actually. So it's given us a polygroups, which we don't want. So Control W and zoom out. And have we lost any detail? No. Have we got nice even distribution? Yes. And nothing's crossed over? No. This wrist does not look right. We've got a kink in it that shouldn't be there. That thing there. So smooth that down. I do quite like this weird spindly like wrist that I've created. Might need to get rid of that bend out of it a little bit. It should be much straighter. That with there's two bones in here, the ulnar and the radius, and there wouldn't be that kind of kink in it. So we might have lost some of the detail on those fingers, but we can go back in and we can sculpt them in. But the overall shape is there. Everything that I put in is there. So that feels good. It feels like we've got most of what we wanted there. So the only problem with that is we've only got it on one side. So if you come up here, you've got mirror. So you can do mirror and that will flip it left and right. Or you can go mirror and weld and just hit that and it will flip it over and it's welded it. So they are buried down in here in the interface in the tool panel. So I've pulled them out on mine. So mirror and weld. And your mirror is found in deformation here. And mirror and weld is up here under geometry. And you'll find it in your modify topology here. It's under mirror and weld there. But these are the things that get confusing for people when they're using ZBrush in the early stages. Putting it all out on the interface for a new user is how it really helps. So I'm just going to use damn standard a little bit up here. I'm going to put backface masking back on for a moment. So remember we had it down here. I think I've actually pulled it out on the interface here, so I've got it on my interface at the top here. So I just want to show that this is kind of looking like barkish. So all I'm using is damn standard and putting some surface detail on the bark, and that'll help me kind of get a feel for what that's going to look like when I've done the detailing on it. So it doesn't need to be complex, it just needs to be indicative, I think is the word that I'm looking for. So whichever angle we look at it from, we'll see this kind of like barky kind of effect. Cross between bark and antlers. So remember we had horrible pointy ears? Well, that dynamesh has fixed all that, as you can see. So it's still rough, and we can do a Control Control and D and go up one resolution if we want. You know, but basically it's fixed that horrible looking spiky ear that we had. So now it's time to see what's happened there. Damage the back. So what does that mean? Probably means back face masking is off. So pop that back on, and when I work on the edge like this, it's not wrecking the back. So that again, I think that's one of the big tips that you might want to remember. That will bite you in the bum somewhere down the line if you forget it. You'll start destroying work at the back of things that you didn't notice. So we're just adding in now. the secondary details, really, the tertiary details. So I'm going to just be waffling on to you while I just work my way around all the different parts. So we'll start with the ear, and we'll do like a cross between a goat and a deer's ear, something like this. Pull it out a little bit, like so, and then down at the back. There we go. And then pull it in because we want it more dinted. And that will do it. And then let's start thinking about this face. So got some horrible roughness going on there, so I'll smooth it down, and then we will use clay build up. We'll just give him some really deep eyes for now. I said I wanted nostrils on the top of the head, didn't I? So that's them coming down here, which would give us an eyebrow, or a brow should I say, here. And then where that wood goes off into the antlers, I think we won't have any dividing line. What we'll do is have the wood coming down and becoming the brow, for example, like so. So we're integrating the wood into the forehead like that. I quite like that idea. And then it's coming around here. From a design point of view, I guess having your nostrils on the top of your head would not be a very clever idea. That probably would be an evolutionary dead end. But what we could also do is say that they've evolved to be able to close at certain times. So there's you know, if you're providing a rationale, you can generally get away with anything. So be able to argue your point. So you know, having it high on the top of your head might be a good way of smelling, but it also could cause you evolutionary problems. So just be aware of things like that, and definitely be ready to argue for your design. So this jawline, maybe bring it forward, maybe into a beak. Actually, yeah, I wasn't planning that at the start, but it's formed into a beak now, so that's fine. And this jawline here, yeah, doesn't look too bad, does it? So let's just use clay build up. Now we're only 2.8 million polys, so it's not even, you know, we're still very, for ZBrush, we're still very, very low resolution. We can go a lot higher than this, even in these early stages, you know, before we need to worry about anything like that. So let's do, rather than a beak, let's do a really strong humanoid lip here. So to do a lip, we want to go flatten underneath, flatten on the top. And that gives us that nice plane change, as we call it. We want to use clay build up and do the dip under the nose, which is called the philtrum. That's nice. And then we want to build up some volume where the lips are, like so, certainly in the middle, and smooth that down. Now this mouth might be a bit froggy, but you know, at least if we build it right, we can change it. Coming round to the cheek, and then some muscles coming down to the jaw, like so. Let it auto save. And then underneath the chin, let's just add some windpipe details. So that ear's looking fine there. So these muscles here, sternocleidomastoid, this is the big one that comes down and helps you control your head. So you always want that. This one here is your clavicle. So humans have them, dogs don't. So horses don't, so we do want them on this because this part is human. And then the bit down the middle is where we breathe and eat. This pipe here, these pipes in here, wrapped around those other muscles. So, and they dive down inside there. So, and that's all worked out quite well. So needs a bit of a chin. Bring him around here. Going around here. And now he looks ridiculous in terms of that stupidly large mouth, so we're going to shrink that mouth right down. Oh, we'll come down, bring it in from the side, smaller, tighter. We want a much, much smaller profile on that mouth. There we go, and that means we can extend the chin a bit. I quite like that now. It was looking a little bit like a cross between a frog and I don't know, some kind of weird fantasy thing. Like so. And I do like that strong jaw. And then bring those eyes forward a bit, the head forward. The ear a bit tighter. And then down. I'm looking at the top now and look how bad these eyes are. These eyes should be much, much, much further forward, like that. And that's an omission you make all the time. If you know, you've got to be looking at it from all different angles, or you'll make bad judgment calls that just look ridiculous from some of these other angles. Well, we caught that one in time, really. Smooth that down with the eye inside. So, and then back on with damn standard and maybe put some of that detail back in. Now's actually time to add some eyeballs, I think. So what we'll do is we'll do very, very simple eyeballs. So we'll just go in and we'll say append, and we'll just stick a standard sphere in like so. Make it much, much smaller. On this side here, I'll just hit dynamesh and a really low res dynamesh, and then bring it down, really low size, forward, from the front, scale it down. And the reason we're doing this is we want something to sculpt around. So if we don't have a shape underneath, it's very easy to go off the shape that you are creating. So we'll use mirror and weld again. Make sure there's no subdivision on it, so mirror and weld there. And then when we go in and we use damn standard, we know we're getting a sphere absolutely spot on underneath. So now use clear build-up, and we'll start thinking about bringing it around like that. And there you go, it's looking much, much better. And because we've got the eye in there now, it's feeling much more realistic. So that's another good tip there. You know, always put in something to sculpt around rather than trying to work all that out yourself. So there we go. So that's the head in a fairly good position. Again, lots of tweaking to do, but we're about 26 minutes in or something like that, or 20 odd minutes for me. It might have adjusted with the edit, but we're not at the end just yet. We still want to do a little bit more. So let's do a pass on. Let's do a pass on all of the major muscles. So let's do a bit more on the chest, like so, coming down to make sure this top one straps over here, and then this muscle here coming around to the above the bicep there. So the bicep gets tucked in, which we already have done. That's looking fine. And then we want some indication of, remember I said about the latissimus dorsi on the back, we want one of them here as well. And then some serratus comic book muscles, and then smooth them back down. And then the abdominals. So 1, 2, 3, and then this big barrel one down here like this, and then smooth all them down. Don't take your time with this at all. Just go for shapes that you know are working. You know, get familiar with the anatomy, as I've told you, and then this is second nature. When you know, it takes a while to learn the anatomy. Learning how to use that skill with these tools is the easy bit. learning the anatomy is the rock hard bit. That's the bit that takes you the most amount of time, and you're not going to learn that in this video today. This is much more about how I do this kind of process. And listening to me talk about how I do it is really, really helpful for you. You know, this is how I learned it. It's just by talking and listening to people. But you know, the anatomy thing, go and learn it. I've said it so many times now. So let's have a look. Come round, have a look at that bicep. Make sure that's looking good. Like so. And just notice that thumb looks a bit low in volume there, so I'm going to add a bit in there. I know we're not doing the hands just at the moment, but I couldn't leave it when I saw it. Just felt like it needed it. And actually that thumb looks really weak. So let's just use a really low intensity, and we'll just inflate that thumb up a little bit. Let's have a look at the ends of the fingers as well. Yeah, they can all do with just pumping up a little bit. So a tiny bit of inflation just gives you some volume there. And I've just seen a few other areas that I think I want it in as well. So you can see how that just gives you a little bit of a lift. So you're not sculpting as much as, you know, adding bulk back in. So that can be quite good. Okay, so there we go. Well on the way. Let's just do the details on the feet. So let's have a think about this one at the back. So I think we want a split hoof. So we want much more of bovine, so like a cow here. So we'll split the hoof like that. And we'll have one this side. Now, here's a good time to do a show and hide. So if I just do Control, Shift, and drag, oops, it's on the knife tool there. So Control, Shift, tap up here, and you want to have, you want to go to Select Rect, and then Control, Shift down here. It will hide everything but what I want to work on. So that's about time you were introduced to that if you don't know about it. So cloven hoof. So we're going to come around here. Nice big hole deep inside. And then we'll use the move tool again. So don't forget it's BMV if you can't find it, or if you're not too sure about it. Bring it around here. And then I want to, with it being cloven, I want it coming out at the front. So like this and like this. Looks a bit like a camel there, and I don't really want that. So what we want to do is come round the front like this, a curve in that cloven hoof round like so. There you go, much more like a cow down here. The fact that it's two toes like that, that's very bovine, very cow-like, or goat. And then let's add some clay build-up. All the way around that hoof, and then above the hoof, like so, and around this side, and then just add a bit more detail. We've messed up in terms of the foot is a combination of different creatures now, so we're going to have to live with that. So we can't use just fully like a cow reference, because because we have tweaked it a bit. I'll show and hide them now, but it's not far off. It's close enough to be believable. So come around here. I like this bit to be quite big here. So this is the calcaneus. This is the bit that straps this great big gastrocnemius all the way down to this heel. This is on us. These are our calves, and these are the things that get massive when on the weight trainers when they're doing a lot of leg work. So anything like a creature like this, you can do great big bulking gastrocnemius muscles, big calf muscles, and they do look great. So come around here. Good time really if you don't already do this kind of thing, you know, we'll get some creature reference. You know, if you're not comfortable with any of this, get some reference and start learning about the muscles and how it works. I'm just doing a lot of dinosaur work at the moment, so and basically I'm having to learn what's essentially massive bird anatomy. So great big T-Rex muscles are pretty much just like giant chicken legs, but that's again a whole different type of animal group that you've got to learn. And if you know mammalian anatomy, that's a great start. You know, so you just base it off what you know, and then you adjust it up. So again, my tip for you is start with human. You know, get a human under your belt, and then you can move on from there quite easily. So let's move him round to a normal position. So he looks good. I like that back leg now. That's not looking too bad at all. So I'm going to use the move tool on it a bit, like that, and then maybe shorten that a little bit now. I've worked on it, not too much. And a great big chunky muscle there at the back. That's, you know, for bounding. I guess this creature bounds all over the place. Yeah, that's looking good. Make this one thinner at the front, like so. So this front bit is the most unbelievable bit. I think this is the bit where we've not quite worked it out yet. So we'll just unpick what we want here. So we've got human hands, or human-esque hands. We've got bovine back feet or hooves at the back. So what are we going to do with the front? What do we think this will be? Because at the moment it's spikes. So do we leave them as spikes, or do we need something that shows that this creature walks on these limbs? And I'm thinking, because it's human arms there, you know, these are elbows, human elbows, the spike just doesn't do anything for us. So what we could do is duplicate the creature overall. We'll just bring him around the front here, and then we'll use that knife tool again. So knife curve here. So we'll just knife away all of that. Need to have deleted the resolution first. So and now we've got that. We'll hit bring it down here and see if maybe we can do it like this. So does that look any better? I think it does actually. I think having cloven hooves is the way to go. And then maybe what we could do is we could drag them down at the back and up at the front, down at the back, make some kind of a weird mishmash, almost like a camel in a way. Yep, quite happy with that. And we'll do mirror and weld, and then smooth it down at the top and move it in like this. So it's buried deep inside when we dynamesh it. And then what we'll do is we'll move this back in. And again, we could knife it away, but you don't need to. You know, just do it like this. Doesn't really matter. Because once it's dynameshed, all of it disappears anyway. Internally, it's all cleaned up. So there we go. So we've got some interesting looking feet on the front. They are cloven hooves, but they're slightly different from what we had on the back. So that's and they look awkward actually. I quite like that they look like he's going to walk in a funny way. Yep, fine with that. And I'll probably bring them together a bit more in a minute. But what we'll do is we'll dynamesh them together. So we want to take the top one and go to merge down, and then the two are together. Look at it like this way, and then what we'll do is we'll just dynamesh it, but a slightly higher res. So it might push it up a little bit in terms of the amount of polygons. Let's have a look. So yeah, it's doubled it actually. It's 4 million now. Still not a huge problem at all. So let's bring these front legs together, as I said. So they should be like this. And that's looking very nice at the front there. And then we can sculpt on those a little bit now. So make it really clear that this is a cloven hoof. Like that. That looks good. Now we might want to P off and move again and make sure that it's down on the ground. Larger brush, so we're moving in big sweeping moves. Make sure he's like that, and then from the side like that. Yeah, so they're alien enough to be good. Should we have it like that? Yeah, we'll have it straighter there like that. And quite wide at the base, I do like that. And then smaller move brush. Try to differentiate them from the back. So I'm trying to make them look like a completely different designed foot. Quite like these knobbly parts, the joints. We'll put some creases on that when we get round to doing that. Looks good. And make sure they are getting closer and closer in the center. There we go. Okay, so I think we've got pretty much everything we want there. In perspective, it looks good. We've got all the limbs. We've got all of the, you know, we're well into the secondary forms, the tertiary forms now. We've got all the major muscle groups done. We've got a head and a neck that looks, you know, a little bit alien, a little bit demonish. So, you know, we've gone a bit crazy with that, which is good. Bring it up a bit and down a bit. I'm just gonna, this is called noodling now. I'm just gonna literally have a play as we investigate what we've got left to do. But I think for this stage, that is pretty much done.